World War II ended in 1945, but one Japanese soldier did not surrender until 1974. For nearly 30 years, he lived in the jungle, hiding, fighting, and waiting for orders that never came. He believed the war was still going on. His name was Hiroo Onoda, and his story is one of the strangest true stories. But the strangest part of this story is not that he stayed in the jungle for 30 years. The strangest part is that many times he was told the war was over, and he refused to believe it. This is the story of Hiroo Onoda, the soldier who continued fighting for nearly 30 years. Hiroo Onoda was born in 1922 in Japan. He grew up when Japan was expanding its empire across Asia. Like many young men of his generation, he was trained to serve the emperor and the country without question. He was not trained as a regular soldier. Instead, he was trained in guerrilla warfare, intelligence, and survival behind enemy lines. His mission was not to die in battle. His mission was to survive, gather information, and continue fighting. In 1944, near the end of the war, he was sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines. Before he left, his commanding officer gave him very clear orders. He was told not to surrender. He was told not to take his own life, and he must continue the mission until the army returned for him. In August 1945, Japan surrendered after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But Hiroo Onoda was deep in the jungle. He and a few other soldiers had hidden in the mountains, avoiding all forces. Soon after, leaflets were dropped from airplanes. The leaflets said the war was over and told Japanese soldiers to surrender. Onoda found these leaflets and read them carefully, but he decided they were fake, a trick by the enemy. Months turned into years. At first, Onoda was not alone. He had 3 other soldiers with him. They survived by living in the jungle, building small shelters, and moving constantly to avoid being captured. They ate bananas, coconuts, and wild animals. Sometimes they stole rice and livestock from local farms at night. They believed they were still at war, so they treated local police and farmers as enemy forces. Over the years, they carried out small attacks and burned crops. The war, for them, was still ongoing. Life in the jungle was difficult. They had to deal with heat, insects, and rain. Their clothes slowly fell apart. Onoda carefully cleaned and maintained his rifle for years so it would still work. It was his most prized possession, but slowly their group became smaller. One soldier surrendered in 1950. Another was killed in a firefight. In 1972, the last soldier was killed. After that, Hiroo Onoda was completely alone. He had been there for almost 30 years. Over the years, the Japanese government and his family tried to bring him home. They left newspapers and recordings of his family. Onoda saw them, but he believed all of it was fake. While he was hiding, the world outside was changing. People went to the moon, and technology changed the world. In 1974, a young traveler named Norio Suzuki decided he wanted to find Lieutenant Onoda. And one day, he found him. Onoda was still wearing his uniform. He still had his rifle. Suzuki explained that Japan had surrendered long ago. Onoda listened, but he would only surrender if his officer ordered it. The Japanese government found Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, who was now working in a bookstore. They brought him to Lubang Island. In March 1974, Major Taniguchi met Hiroo Onoda in the jungle and formally gave him new orders. He told him the war was over. He was relieved of duty. He told him he could finally come home. Onoda saluted and surrendered his rifle and his sword. For him, the war was finally over. When Hiroo Onoda returned to Japan, he became famous immediately. But Japan had changed completely since 1945. He moved to Brazil and became a farmer, eventually returning to Japan. He died in 2014 at the age of 91. His story raises a strange question. Was he a hero, or a man who lost nearly 30 years to a war that had ended? Maybe he was both. This was History Bits Studio.